So this is the lay shaft, which I forgot to take the bearings off actually. I think I got that excited about getting the bearings off the main shaft that I totally forgot about this one until I cleaned up and tidied up. And I discovered I had these two to pull off. So I'm going with the same kind of, let's look at that end there, I'm just going with the same technique of some pulling system on there. So I'll get that hooked up, just two bearings on this one. And I'm hoping they'll come off like the other ones. I'm getting my confidence up a bit too much with the bearing puller, so long may it continue. So I'll get it hooked up and see what we can do with this one. So this is the system that I use for pulling most of them. It's worked quite well. The smaller bearing puller this time, that's a larger one. It's more heavy duty, but this one, the smaller one, seems to fit around the actual diameter of the bearing better and get a better grip. So I've gone with a smaller one this time. Shorter pull as possible is what I use as well. And everything, all of these are heavy duty. I've got some smaller ones, but I just prefer the heavy ones, mainly because they're not as bent as the other ones. So that's the setup. It's pretty easy, and you can tell more or less straight away whether they're going to come off or not. And don't be afraid to readjust the actual clamp around the bearing if you feel as though it's just pulling the cage off, because you can just readjust it and get another grip, because it's really tight getting them in between the bearings here and the actual cog. So it's worth readjusting now and then. So let's give this one a go and see whether we can pull this one off. Right, I was trying to do it with a better camera angle, but it's hard to do the actual job and not obscure the camera. It takes a bit of leverage on this, so I'll give it a go. Oops, come on. And that's coming off pretty easy again. There we go, another one off. I'm not sure, I think that's just literally the bearing on there. All this lay shaft is one cast piece. So I'll spin it round and see whether I can get a longer reach on the other end. So I'll set that one up. So hopefully this is the final bearing I've got to pull off, and we'll give it a go. Fingers crossed. I need to go back and look at the input shaft as well. There's some shells on there that I think may need to come off. I need to check my parts list first of all, see which renewable bits I've got, and then decide whether I pull those off or not. But the fact the bearing came out on the input shaft would mean that the shell does as well. So that's something I'm definitely going to have a look at. I'm not fully done, so let's see if we can get this one off, and it'll be at least some good progress. See, that one's popped off. That's a bad one. The last one. Let me back that up. That didn't pull very well. It slipped a bit. And it's just grabbed the cage. So I'll back all this off and reposition it. I've just tightened up the bearing puller shell, if you like, and it's starting to come off now. Oh, it slipped. Oh, it's sliding off. It's coming. Just need to keep reconfiguring this a little bit to make sure it grips it properly. Let's hope for third time lucky. Last one, and it's been pretty awkward. I'm pretty sure it's gonna come off though. I've managed to get not just the cage but the actual shell of the bearing. There we go. Good. Let's see if I can get that out. And hopefully that bearing puller is one tool I can put away finally. Again, lay shaft, very good condition, not worried about that at all. So I'm just checking the threads on the end there where I used the air gun on it, but yeah, that's all nice. I've noticed these bearings are slightly different, so you're going to have to make sure you get the right bearing on the right end. For the most part I've kept mine together. I'm not sure on the main shaft, I'm going to have another look at that, but I thought the bearings were both the same, so I'm just going to go back and check that to make sure, and probably have to look at a parts diagram to make sure I get the right one, but I'm just going to put that back on there loose, along with this track that came with it, and a spacer. Keep all that together for when I come to put it back together, and then I can just reference which bearings and bits came off. So happy with that, another job done. Right, so next up, this is the, I guess you call it the main part of the gearbox. I'm going to strip the rest of this thing down so then get it cleaned up. It's the smaller of the two parts, which is ironic that they call it the main when it's actually smaller. So first up is this thing, which is on pretty tight, I've got to say. And that is not going to come off without a bit of work. So I guess I'll leave those for now. I don't want to hit them too hard yet. Alright, let's have a look at the... This is the actual oil pump. A load of Torx ones there. So I'm not sure what does what there. I'll just undo them all. I think some hold the cover on and some hold it in place, so I'll get this thing off. Alright, I'm just going to encourage these 10mm bolts off. I cracked one of them, and hopefully this will come as well, just to get it going. Okay, I could do with renewing, and so could this. So, and that should drop off, and there she goes. So there's some O-rings in there that are going to be replaced. They're part of the renew kit, but generally that looks okay. Next up we will remove maybe this. I think that's a reverse switch, I think. Whatever it is, it's coming off, and it's quite a big size spanner that. It's going to be like number 17. It's quite a large size, and I think this is actually sealed in with some Loctite or something or other. But we'll see if it gives in or not. Oh, there you go, easy. All of these things, once you get them cracked, they come off pretty easy. They are corroded, but come on, off you go. There's probably going to be a copper washer or something on that. Certainly a seal of some kind on there. It's been crushed. So switch off. What else have we got? Lots of sealant. This is the oil feed pipe. I think this comes off because it's got an O-ring on it. There we go. There you go. That should have an O-ring, I think, somewhere. It's quite dark here, so I can't tell whether there's an O-ring in there or not. I think there should be. It's probably destroyed. Alright, let me shine the light in there and see what's going on. Yeah, I think there's an O-ring there. I'll get a screwdriver in there later on. A small screw in, pull it out. So what I've noticed is this spacer, thrust washer, or whatever it is, this goes on one of the bearings. So just make sure you don't lose that. And now I'm going to keep mine with the bearing for now. It's in a recess, so it's quite easy to identify. Right, that looks pretty good. Let's get the oil pump off. This guy here, and these will need a bit of a rake out. They're a bit dirty inside. We'll give those a clean up and we'll drop that off. Right, so there are actually different size torques on this pump, so I'm not sure which is which. I would say there's 6 torques on there, and I would say, well, there's 3 and 3, 3 large, 3 small. I'd go with the large, which I'm going to take off first. I reckon they'd be holding it in place, and the small are going to be for the actual cover. That's my theory. And they've come off alright. The first one's alright. Sizes are all over the place. Alright, just be careful with these things. I think that's the 3rd large one. Ow. Hard working conditions today. It's bitterly cold outside, so I have to shut the garage door and there's hardly any room. Right, we'll soon find out whether the large or the small are the ones that are retaining this. Come on, it's a long thread. It's like an engineering thread, that. Oh, how long is that? Right. I'm going to have to get the ratchet back on it because the thread's really long. Come on. Number 2. And it's not moving yet. So these could be the cover. I'm not sure myself yet as to which ones these are. We'll soon find out. Right, that's a 3 large out, and it's not going anywhere. I need something just to coax it out. Right, I don't know if it's fused in a little bit, or they've taken the wrong ones out. Either way, let's get the other ones off and see what happens. Oh, that's tight. Don't say I'm going to be held up by this. Oh, that's tight as well. I'm going to be held up by an oil pump and 3 stupid small bolts. Right, that's 1 out of 3. Those are the 2 are in solid. That's annoying. I don't understand why they're all different sized torque heads on them. Oh, he's way longer. Have to remember where these go. That was top. Right. These may have thread lock on, so I'm assuming these smaller ones, even though they're smaller head, they are longer, and they're probably holding the actual pump to the casing. Right, there's number 2, 1 to go. Come on, let's have a full house. Yeah. Right, try again, see if it'll give way. There we go. That's the cover. And that is some sealant or a gasket. That is some kind of sealant or gasket as well that's on it. Not sure about that. That's dirty. So file that away. And I'm not sure how this is held in place, to be honest. I think he is. At least these bits look fine. I don't want to force this until I know which way out it goes. It's like a plastic sheet on there. Right, I think that's trapped behind the bearing. So when the bearing comes out, which I don't really want to do at the moment, I'm going to have to, aren't I? Not sure if it pushes out or pulls out this way. So, let's flip it over and have a look. I'd say that pushes out, but I don't want to hit it. Let me just give him a little knock. Right, not sure. I'm going to have to look at a manual for that. That's a shame because I want to get these cleaned up. Annoying. I suspect it comes out at the front. And I think it's just a little bit corroded in at the front. Come on. It's not moving. You'd think if the bolts went in that way it would pop out this way from the front, but it's not playing the game. Just give them a little tap again. Right, it's moving. Right, there we go. It does pop out that way. I think it's just corroded in, that's all. A little bit nasty in there. That's how we go. Yeah, just a bit corroded around the side, that's all. So that's the oil pump. Some kind of cover on there, I'll leave that on. Again, this will go in the parts washer for a clean-up. It's a little bit dirty actually, a little bit grubby. And put him over there with all the other bits that came off it. And I think that seam is split down. Have a quick just turn it round a bit. I think I've got everything. There's a couple of bits inside. I'm leaving those because they won't be affected when I come to clean it. And like I say, the bearings are staying in. Again, I'll have to look at which way in and out they get pushed. Not sure looking at them. But there's the main housing, stripped bare more or less, that's all I need on. And keep that spacer. Right, next up, this one, which is the extension, and I'm pretty sure this one's clean. Clean as in stripped clean. There's nothing on there that I can see. That one can go straight for a clean-up. Good, that's 2 down. Progress. Now what isn't progress is this one here. This is the centre plate, and this mysterious idler. I think it's a reverse idler, and it does have a bearing behind it, a roller bearing, and it should push off. So I'm going to put this on the press. I'm not going to hammer it, it is a push fit, so I'll line this up on the press and we'll get this pressed out. And remember that it goes on that side. There are some tolerances for this, but I think the tolerance is, I'm just seeing if it moves. Alright, there's a bit of movement there on the wheel. There's a bit of movement there on the wheel, so that's probably where the tolerance is between the wheel and this stopper. Right, let me get the press lined up and get this punched out. Here we go, one hydraulic press to get this thing out. And let's see whether it moves or not. I think it's free to move, yeah. Ooh. I think, has that got it or not? I have to be careful because I'm not sure. Let me back this off a bit. I'm a little bit worried about this going into the hole. Right, it's not ideal, but we'll try that way. I am concerned about the size of the drift I'm using. Come on. again, let me just check that's all loose. Yeah. Last thing I want to do is get that part stuck in. Right. Right, there we go. And there is the needle bearing. Needs replacing. I think that's in the kit. I hope it is after going to that effort of splitting it. Right, let's back that off. And get rid of these. I'm hoping that hasn't gone in. Yeah, good. Sort this out. Tidy up. And we'll have this plate away. Next up, it's a case of cleaning all these three casings up. Just the outside really, the insides are pretty good. I've inspected them, they all look pretty good. A couple of dinks on them from something, and it's probably been going around on the inside at some point. And so I'll clean those up and prepare them for going back together, and that's about it. Pop the bearings out once I've cleaned them up and reassemble, and then I'll go on and inspect all the other bits I've taken off as individual clusters and replace all the parts which are serviceable. And I'll do a different series for the reassembly. So I conclude this one with a fully stripped down, I would say, gearbox. There's a few bits and pieces to sort out, but nothing major, so I will end this with a over and out, job done.